From the mountains and thick forests of eastern Norway to the high seas of Skagerrak, and finally support from the heart of Denmark. Vad sker män? Was geht ab in der Welt? Vem? Who? Wer? It's Pat and Troy!
And we're live. Welcome back here to the corner for another episode. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the 10 best cities to live in the world. And this list is updated as of April 2020. And we're talking about it because the list is just in from the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Report, which ranks the best places to live in the world, scoring 140 cities in 5 categories, which is stability, healthcare, culture, and environment, education, and infrastructure.
That is some very important parameters there, and since the list is just in, this is almost like I guess you could call it breaking news in a way.
Yeah, kind of like.
So this is actually a hot potato episode right here. That's why it's probably not going to be so long. But this, it's basically like a newscast, if you will. So this just in, we will be reporting from the best places to live now.
And now there's an important difference because you also have like the world's most expensive city. And the world's most expensive city for expats, but there's also the world's most beautiful city and the world's friendliest cities. So what we're like now talking about, like I just said, was the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Report, which is like measuring these 5 categories that we mentioned. So on number 10, I forgot to mention you, man. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, that was so rude of me. But of course, we have my co-host Troy here, as always, or usually as always.
How you doing, folks?
How are you doing, man? So yeah, this is like quite an interesting topic to talk about. And there is some cities in this list that remains unchanged from the last year's ranking, such as Canada and Australia, which still reign supreme. But without further ado, let's get to it. Or I'm sorry, did I misspell that or mispronounce that? Or is it further ado?
It is further ado, yeah.
Okay, without further ado, let's get to it. We have number 10 best city in the world to live in, which is Adelaide, Australia. You want to take this one, Troy?
No, you can take it.
Okay, then you go to number 9 afterwards.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here on my phone actually, so I can review with you.
So we have Adelaide ranking out of 100. It ranks a score of 96.6. And what it ranks in this score is it ranks 95 in the stability score, 100 in healthcare, 94.2 in culture and environment, another 100 on education, and 96.4 in infrastructure. So that is like quite that is quite high for a town.
Yeah.
And this place supposedly has world-class vineyards and natural wines, and it is located in the southern Australia, so it is a southern coastal city. So it is a great place to take up permanent residence since, you're close to the water. You can take in that fresh salt water, ocean breeze, and smell that every morning. and it has some nice architecture and buildings. So you have like nice walks to look at. And have you ever noticed, that you can go for a walk and you can go for the same walk 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, but every time you can spot something new. You know that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I do that every day, actually. Like, I try to change up my walking route when I walk around the park in my city of Aarhus. I try to look at things from different angles, different perspectives, in order to get a fresh
Yeah.
view, a fresh input into my life. And
Yeah, because you can sometimes see like, wow, I haven't seen that building before. Wow, I haven't seen that house before.
yeah,
Holy shit, it has a window on that side, or whatever, or interesting graffiti or art
and
graffiti to look
that
at.
is that
I haven't
is
seen.
very important. I would actually say it is essential to all civilized life on Earth that we don't, maybe even to all life on Earth, actually, that we rediscover things. I have actually made a video about this on my channel, my other channel. You can go check that out as well. Alexander Trestrup is just what it's called, where I contemplate about this thing, rediscovery, that the rediscovery is essential to be able to not fall into a dead end routine where everything gets boring, everything gets the same. You have to appreciate it's essential in order to appreciate life uh, over and over again. So
Yeah,
so yeah, I do definitely follow that.
yeah, it's a way of learning to how to stop and smell the roses now and then.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
for instance, where you like have a guy that is like, say in your
but but
town
but
walking
but
to
not
work.
not not just smell the roses. Also, if I may, like further the metaphor there. Uh, it is also to like keep smelling the roses and smelling the roses from a different angle. Maybe smelling some lilies every now and then. Not
Yeah, for
just
sure.
like
For sure, change up the smell.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like not just sit in the same old in the same old 1,000 square meter mansion, smelling and touching that your gold sinks and everything, but actually try to like go out to your friend's house and just take comfort in their 15 square meter flat or something like that.
Yeah, for sure, for
I
sure.
mean, even that can give like a much more different view on life. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be the same old high quality, high luxury things all the time.
that's that's true. All right, I will continue on topic here.
The next,
So
we're
no, wait,
going to.
wait, I
Okay.
wasn't completely finished.
Okay.
So the Economist Intelligence Unit gives it the highest score of 100 in both education and healthcare, and that is judging the availability and quality of both. So this place apparently has exceptional education and healthcare services and options to use, as well as it also has these pristine beaches and world-class restaurants that has certainly added to the factor of having it scoring so high on the list. Now, let's get to number 9, which is one of your cities, Troy.
Yeah. I'm actually getting the one of the best countries in the world, which is housing one of the. Well, I mean, I'm actually not that fond of Copenhagen, but I mean, it does rank 96.8 in the overall rating, and 95.0 in stability, which is the lowest rating of all five parameters. And then we have 95.8 in healthcare, which is pretty much the same thing in the rest of Denmark as well. But then we have culture and environment, which is 95.4. Which makes sense because like the Danish government is heavily funding cultural activities and social activities all over the country. So that makes sense. But then we have the two highest factors, which is education and infrastructure, which is both rated 100.0, which gets the highest rating of best cities to live in, which is because we fund education and infrastructure so well. And we actually talked about this in the podcast yesterday. Where we talked about that, where you thought we were going to have a bunch of toll booths soon all over the country, and the cities like Odense and Copenhagen were the first cities to get a toll booth. But if we look at this, where we have 100 rating in infrastructure, it becomes very clear that infrastructure, especially in Denmark, is one of the essential things that has always been paid over the taxes. So I don't know, man. I just don't think we will ever get toll booths in Denmark, except for the bridge. The bridge.
I have never driven over the Öresund bridge from Denmark to Sweden. But it is my understanding that the highway don't go through Copenhagen. It goes outside.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't go through Aarhus either. Like, it's funny. Like, Danish infrastructure has a way of making like rings around bigger cities like Copenhagen and Aarhus, where they make like an inner ring that goes around the inner city, which is like a highway, not a highway, but it's like a bigger road. And then we have an outer ring that goes around the outer areas of the city. So that's interesting. Like if you look at Danish infrastructure.
I was going to just mention quickly here that if you were to go on the highway from Oslo, driving from south to north, the freaking highway don't go around Oslo. No, it goes through Oslo. So every time I've been driving there, I've been thinking like, I wonder what genius came up with this level of designing this infrastructure.
Yeah, but I think there's actually a lot more cities in the world that have this. That you just they have these massive roads. I know Berlin has the I can't remember the name of it. It is also a road that goes all the way from the outer area of Berlin into the Brandenburger Tor, the Brandenburger Gate.
Yeah.
I can't remember what this is. It's called. I could fucking Google it. I'll Google it.
Yeah.
Just give me a second.
Well, yeah, I agree that like many places have it like that. Also, New York, then you drive through the city pretty much to go to New Jersey or Jersey City.
Yeah.
Which is why you just have completely clogged up traffic on the highway across the George Washington Bridge. But like it could also be that when these roads were built, then the population pressure wasn't as huge as it is now, and they just take that in account. Anyways,
right. The street which goes all the way out to the edge of Berlin into the Brandenburger Gate is called Unter den Linden. Just to give you a little bit of German culture right here. Let's get that in here too. But let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, I just like mentioning for the audience here that also Copenhagen is probably one of the most cleanest cities in the world, where a lot of people uses bicycles as means to transport, and it is filled up with like free parks and art galleries. So there's always something to do. Plus, it has the City Circle line, which is a metro line that includes 17 brand new metro stations. So I guess like
Yeah.
this is like also parts of like why it scores so high on infrastructure.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
so yeah, I'm gonna take number 7, which is Toronto in Canada.
Wow.
And this is like apparently like one of the cities that hasn't changed in from the last ones, but it is tied. Number 7 is tied with Tokyo, since both of them scores about the same. So in Toronto, we have a score of 97.2, and like my man, like look at that picture. Wow, that looks like a beautiful place.
Yeah,
Nin-
unfortunately, we since we're on Anchor FM here, we can't really show you the pictures. But I don't know. Can you actually like put this on in the description or something like that?
I don't, yeah, but like yeah, I guess so. Um, but if not, then just Google it, folks, and check out these magnificent pictures.
Yeah. In any way, you're probably going to link to the article that we're reading
Yeah,
through
yeah,
right
in any
here.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Toronto is like scoring 97.2 in overall rating, 100 in stability, 100 in healthcare, 97.2 in culture and environment, and another 100 in education, but only 89.3 in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Um, I would also like say that it's worth to mention that Toronto is a short drive from the American border. Doesn't take a long time to get there for those who wants to see like north north state North New York State and uh,
Yeah.
Niagara Falls and stuff. So this is one of the 3 Canadian cities in this year's top 10, and it is like earning perfect marks, scoring 100 in like stability, healthcare, and education. And it is apparently also one of the most welcoming cities in the world. Wow, that's amazing.
What do you mean welcoming? Can we define that?
Well, like welcoming by the way that if you were to move there, they will accept you with like open arms, like welcome into the fold, right?
Oh
Meaning,
yeah, yeah, okay.
meaning that they don't care if you're an immigrant. They don't care if you're from another country or another place. You're human to them, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, but that might.
like, oh
Yeah, that's.
yeah,
I mean, that confirms a lot of what you've heard from Canada in general. Like as opposed to what you've heard about the U.S. When we were talking about at some point as well about the U.S. border. What
yeah,
do you call it? Customs. Yeah, customs. When you
yeah.
come
We're
in,
talking about
and you have to be strip searched almost at any airport, especially during these Corona
and
times right now.
leaded like cattle for for
Yeah.
the yellow line and stuff. Yeah,
Man.
that's crazy. But yeah, like 46% of this 3 million strong population city of Toronto is foreign born. So like 46% of the population is foreigners,
Wow.
and there and that makes it so that the reception of others is so great that they don't refer to immigrants as immigrants. They refer to immigrants as newcomers. So if
Well,
you were to move to Toronto, you're not an immigrant, you're a newcomer. So
that's a very interesting way and like a very I would say advanced way of looking at immigrants because that I mean like at the end of the day when the English and the rest of Europe immigrated from Europe in the 18th century, then they were also newcomers to the New World. They were newcomers to the U.S. And to Mexico as well and to Canada.
yeah,
So that makes sense to see it in this way, that to greet everyone like newcomers.
It is.
And I think the U.S. could learn from that in a way, because they are like, they have adapted this kind of like hostile. I don't know, man. Maybe
Like,
it's rooted in a certain aggression that's we've also talked about. That's rooted in the Wild West, but born in blood and all. But I don't know, man.
I was going to say, like, Neanderthals bang their sticks and say, like,
Yeah.
who are you?
Oh man. So
Anyways, let's move on. You want to do like the next one, which is the tie to Toronto, also on number 7.
oh yeah, which is the great city of Tokyo. Here we're all the way over in Asia now. I'm not going to read the overall rating. Or I might as well do it now. That's 97.2. But the stability and healthcare we're both on 100. Which is surprising to me, actually, that they have so great healthcare. And then they have culture and environment, which is only at a 94.4, which is not surprising, actually, to me. And then we have education, which is at 100. And then we have infrastructure, which is just at a measly 92.9. And I guess this makes sense, because they are very educated. I mean, if you look at their technology,
I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in. Like, on the infrastructure on 92.9, I still say that that's pretty damn impressive, since we are talking about a city with over 20 million people in it.
Oh yeah, okay. If you in that regard, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, like, I think that it is great. But yeah, it was tied with Toronto for the 7th place, making these high marks. And also that the 2020 Summer Olympics will also keep it on the top 10 probably for years to come, since by hosting the Summer Olympics, they will be amping up this infrastructure system, for sure.
I think it's actually interesting that the Japanese capital has more Michelin stars, if you're talking food at the restaurant business, than any other place on Earth.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of that's surprising to me, because when you think about Japanese culture, you don't think like well, they have so great food. I mean, of course they have sushi, but other than that, you don't really think of them being master chefs.
Yeah.
But apparently, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to correct myself. I said 20 million. The correct number as of 2015 is 13.4 million people, almost 13.5.
Yeah.
But that's still quite a lot. That's over 6,000 people per square kilometer in density.
I think we need to move on further down the list, because
I'm sorry.
we're actually we've actually managed to bring up the podcast to another level of length again. So
okay, let's move on. On number 6 we have Vancouver, Canada, which scores on average 97.3. What it scores the highest on is 100 on healthcare, culture, on environment, and education. But yeah, like Vancouver is also like a fantastic city, and like magnificent in its architecture and thing to look at. So I don't think that you will have a bored moment taking a walk in that city. It's also a short drive, I believe, or short depending on your definition of short. It's about 90 minutes from Seattle by car.
yeah. And when taking the next city, I'm actually noticing a very distinguishable pattern here, which is that most of these cities that are on this list, or a lot of these cities, are from Canada.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
that's which shows us that maybe there's a country over there in the big northern west that has it figured out how to run a country, eh?
yeah. Well, I'm sorry we're continuing to going off topic, but Canada is the second largest country in the world,
Yeah, but
right?
we're not going off topic. What is the topic?
Okay, the topic
Uh,
is these cities.
yeah,
So
this
I'm sorry,
topic is the
sorry
cities,
about that.
and
So
that
the topic,
also, I mean, in my opinion, that also includes the countries that the cities are located in. I mean,
yeah, okay. So and you have only 30 million people living in that country. That's one
yeah.
tenth of the population of the U.S. with just as much space, more space.
Much more space, much more space. I mean, sure, a lot of the population is living in the sea area, like either on the west or the east coast of Canada. But I mean, they also do have huge areas of forest where you could live if you were more, if you tamed the nature more. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, there are. Um, but you also have these places in Canada, on the east coast,
Yeah,
which is pretty much dying now. Because if you look on the map and you look on, for instance, Newfoundland is pretty much dying because you have
uh,
like in all these like small places you have houses where some people lives and stuff, and then you have like a semi big city of St. John's. Um, but the reason why this was like huge, it was huge back in the day because of the ports and people resupplying on shipping routes to America.
yeah,
Since Newfoundland is the shortest distance to travel by boat from Europe to North America, unless you count Greenland as part of North America. But we typically sail from like Ireland to Newfoundland, then resupply, and then head further inland.
yeah.
Also, if you were going to sail to Quebec, for instance, but now they don't, and they just resupply on St. John's. But yeah, um,
The next city on the list is another Canadian city,
Calgary,
which is Calgary. And
or pretty damn high.
we got an overall rating of 97.5, which is pretty damn high, yeah. And then stability in healthcare, we got 100, a straight flat out 100. And then we got education and infrastructure, which is also 100. We got 100 on all parameters except for culture and environment, which is only a 90. Which is, I don't know. I don't exactly know why this is. I'm not a Canada expert. Do you have any take on that? Why culture and environment is so significantly lower in Calgary, Canada?
No, I don't have like an answer for it, but it is what's measured in it. I guess it is regarding
I
the
mean,
options.
compared to Vancouver, who rates 100
Yeah,
on culture and environment, it
but
yeah,
Vancouver
it just
Vancouver
seems weird.
rates Vancouver rates 100 because they most likely have like a lot more options when you go there. When I'm talking options, I'm talking like art galleries, stuff to look
Yeah,
at in the
yeah,
street like graffiti, walking tours, walking trails around it, and Vancouver is surrounded by walking trails and forests and great nature and all this,
yeah.
plus all these free art exhibits and art galleries and museums and so on, right?
But
So
but here on this article, it also says that the city has thriving restaurant and cultural scenes. Don't forget about the Calgary Stampede, an annual rodeo, and its
yeah,
proximity to Lake Louise and Banff National Park makes it an
yeah,
excellent hub for nature-focused trips.
yeah. But it is again, like I think it is the amount
Yeah, you're probably right.
of accessibility to it, right?
Yeah. So
So
at the end of the day, it probably like it doesn't always rely on public government funding when we're talking culture and environment. It's also like what the city in itself has to offer. Like
yeah,
I have a slight tendency to look at all the government expenses when it comes to all these things, but of course, the city in itself and the market forces have something to say as well about this. That's obvious. We can't forget about that. Even though I'm not a liberalist by no means, but yeah.
yeah. Let's move on to the next one, which is Osaka, Japan,
Yeah.
scoring 87.7 out of 100. 100 in healthcare, 100 in stability, 100 in education, 93.5 in culture and environment, and 96.4 in infrastructure. And now, like, this is the third largest city in Japan, so I'm guessing that's why they don't score 100 in infrastructure.
Yeah.
And this is also, food central in the world with one of the best food cities in all of Japan, where you can eat specialties such as takoyaki, which is battered fried octopus balls, and okonomiyaki, which is grilled savory pancakes with a variety of additions.
Have you actually tried to eat baby octopus?
I don't think so, no.
It's very delicious when you have a chef fry it in a pan with a lot of butter on it. Like it looked a little bit disgusting when I tried it the first time in Germany when I was down there, and like it looked a little bit disgusting when it was lying there in the just raw, like with the head looking at you. You could see the eyes looking up at you. But once the chef took it and fried it up in a lot of butter, then it was actually very delicious. Especially when you chew that head off, you can feel that squishy eyeballs between your teeth.
Yeah.
I sound like a maniac right now, but it actually it tastes, seriously though, it tastes much better than you would think, guys. If you ever have a chance to try baby octopus, take it. Just take a shot, man. Take a shot.
Yeah, I will for sure. So, and then we also have, like before I move on, the city is also known for its baseball culture and neon lit neighborhood, amongst with also the beautiful Osaka Castle. So that was that regarding Osaka, Japan. Before we move on to number 3, which is Sydney. You want to take this?
Yeah, Sydney. So, in Sydney, we have an overall rating of 98.1, which is quite high. And stability, we are looking at 95, whereas healthcare is all the way up to 100. Culture and environment is 97.2. That's not surprising since they have the Opera House and a lot of other attractions there. Sydney is also a harbour city, so we got a lot of water around, so that all contributes to that factor, I believe. And then we have education and infrastructure, which is also 100, both of them, so scoring quite high there. So all in all, we have Sydney to be a quite good city with regards to everything, all factors except for stability, which seems to be a little low compared to what we have on the what we have been through on the list so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't.
Also worth to mention their Sustainable Sydney 2030 strategy, which is the city's goal to become completely eco-friendly or as eco-friendly as possible by the year 2030.
Oh
Um,
yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
so
that's of course a factor that would factor into probably environment, yeah, culture, and okay, I see. This is actually first now that it occurs to me that culture and environment there they probably factor in, pollution and these things too. It's not just
yeah,
culture, it's also, yeah, it
yeah.
actually just occurs to me now, but like,
Well,
all
that
right.
makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so that
Well,
also makes
let's
sense with regards to Calgary, for instance,
yeah.
that they're not scoring higher on it. It may have something to do with the fact that they're not so eco-friendly.
Yeah, well, that also makes sense. Since it is colder, people drive bigger trucks because of the
Yeah,
terrain with 4x4. So you have naturally more pollution,
yeah.
of course. I've also heard, like from a friend of mine in Canada, that when it's cold outside, they don't turn off their car to run into a 7-Eleven to grab something. They leave the SUV running on the parking lot.
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's gotta. If it's so cold in a country, like you're probably talking about easily -5 or -10 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but we don't calculate with that here in Denmark. But if it's that cold, then you don't want to waste fucking 5 minutes to heat up your car again after having been
No,
on a 7-Eleven.
it's also understandable that you would want to take your car those 300 meters in 30 degrees minus Celsius
Yeah. You,
in
ju-
30 degrees. Yeah,
you, ju-
in minus 30.
you just keep it running then, because
Yeah,
why not?
why not?
All
Right.
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 So the next one
Let's go.
is
Mel.
Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'll take
a lot of
I'll
these.
take this one. I'll take this one. Then you take the last one.
Oh, didn't you just take
Melbourne.
Sydney?
No,
No.
no,
Oh
you
yeah,
you
no,
take
that was
it.
mine.
Yeah. So yeah, Melbourne, Australia is the second best city in the world to live in, with an overall rating on 98.4, stability on 95, healthcare on 100, culture and environment on 98.6, and education and infrastructure on 100.
Yeah.
Now, this is considered the most livable city in all of Australia and the second most livable city in the entire world.
Oh yeah, and I'm
So
actually
that's
noticing
saying that.
a lot of cities are from Australia as well on this list.
Yeah,
Like
like Australia,
you have
Canada are ranking high.
Melbourne City, and Adelaide. So we have three cities from Australia. We have one from Denmark, Copenhagen, and we have one from Japan, and then we have three from Canada.
Yeah,
So it's actually just Japan, Canada, Denmark, and Australia so far,
yeah.
until we get to the first one. Should I? Yeah.
Until we get to the last one.
Yeah.
But I'll just round up Melbourne with like saying that seems like a great place, and it shines with the best personality that Australia can treat you, because it is sophisticated, it is stylish, it's free spirited,
Yeah,
and
free
it
spirited.
continues
Yeah.
travelers and tourists with yeah, sorry, and it continues to attract travelers and tourists with its world-class arts and famed coffee and cuisine. So let's get to number one, Troy.
Yeah. Without further ado, we can do a little drum roll here. And number one is Vienna in Austria. which is surprising because it's not Canada, it's not Denmark, it's not Japan, and it's not Australia, and it's not Australia. It is Austria, with an overall rating of 99.1 and a stability and healthcare rating of 100. So we have stability 100, healthcare 100. Then we have education 100, infrastructure 100, and surprising enough, culture and environment is down to 96.3. Now, why is that when we have so many? When Vienna was once, especially in the 19th century, it was the culture hub of Europe. I would say. I don't think there was that many cities that were during this time were a lot more with regards to theater, with regards to great composers. We have Mozart, who I believe was Austrian. I'm not sure. No, or was he German? I never remember. But regardless,
I'm checking it out.
Regardless,
and yes, you're right. By the way, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born the 27th of January 1756 in Salzburg, Austria.
Oh yeah,
but died the 5th of December 1791 in Vienna.
And I should have known because I have been to Salzburg and I've seen the statue of Mozart, which was erected down there after his death. So I should have known that. But yeah, then we still only, despite all of these very cultural attractions that we have in Vienna, that we have had in Vienna for a long time. This is not a new modern thing. This is something that we've had all the way since the dawn. What do you call it? The dawn of information, the information age. But why then do we have the one factor that we thought Vienna was going to score high on, which is culture and environment? Why is that down to 96.3?
Like my guess, and I'm not saying guess because it's not knowledge, is that today in 2020, people aren't thinking, "Hey man, let's go to Vienna." Because it's just
no. Actually, there's a lot of people who do that, especially from Europe. Maybe not in the US, because Americans are like crazy there. I mean, like they gotta fucking experience the whole world. But in Europe, Vienna still remains a prime spot for tourists all over Europe to visit. But I believe that this score factors in the pollution in this town as well.
I forgot, to mention, the Baroque clean architecture of these buildings, and
of course,
and then the Danube cruises that is going through the city.
Yeah, exactly. You have to get that in there, and then. Of course, the Vienna in general is a cornucopia of different architectural styles throughout the years, and that all contributes to a high rating in culture. But then, of course, we still have the environmental factors again that probably, I mean. In Austria, there's living, I think, 10 million people or something like that, and it's a relatively small country compared to Germany. So that may be a factor too, that we have the pollution, which doesn't seem to be in that much in order in Vienna in general. But it makes sense though that they don't score so high on it, because maybe that is also not regarded as much in Austria in general as it is in many other countries. I mean, of course, they do have goals for bringing down their pollution levels, but it's not that much of a main priority in Vienna as it is in other countries.
thing to mention, though, is that one of the reasons why Vienna is on the list as number one is because the cost of living in Vienna is far, far lower than comparable European cities.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. So, meaning that, if you have like the average income and you're working in Vienna, then chances are that you will probably have a higher standard of living than, for instance, with the same job and same pay in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
follow, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So that makes sense that that we have a city where it's significantly cheaper to live also than it is, for instance, in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Um,
To round this up, then I
yeah,
would want to add
no,
one.
I just want to finish like
Oh yeah, okay.
concluding on the city to say that regardless of a factor rating in culture and environment of 96.3, we score 100 on all other areas: stability, healthcare, education, and infrastructure, um, which is surprising because I don't think any German city would score that high on this. And Austria is basically Germany. I mean, the Austrian language and the Swiss German language are only slight variations of German. Like they have some extra words, but other than that, it's basically German. So
Yeah,
it is surprising why they score that high when a lot of German cities are not on the list.
we should, we should go to Vienna, man.
Yeah, I've never been
We
there.
should.
I've
We
never been
should.
there.
And you can do all the talking since you speak the language. So we're golden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like my family went there though. I was busy with something else. I can't remember what that was. But yeah, there's so much you have to see. Like if the rating was on culture alone, it would be 100 as well because there is so much to see in that city.
Yeah.
But yeah, we probably have to wrap this up now anyway.
And I wanted to wrap it up with one final question. Of all of these 10 cities, what city would you want to live in?
Um, probably a little outside of Toronto because
Yeah.
I love the Pacific Ocean. So
Well, you're on the wrong side of
no,
Canada then.
I mean Vancouver, of course. I mean Vancouver. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
No, I mean Vancouver, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
would I would have said Toronto because that thing that they look at immigrants as newcomers instead of immigrants, that uh, that just melted my heart for
yeah,
sure.
that is actually a good point. Um, I don't know.
Which
I mean,
is
I guess if you live in Toronto, then there's not far to the U.S. as well, and if you want to make a day trip to no, oh right, you can't do that. You can't make a day trip from Toronto to the West Coast.
no,
No,
hell
no,
no.
no, no. Yeah, I was just the size, the sheer size of America, the American country and Canada was just hitting me there because, like, here in Denmark, we can easily say, yeah, we'll make a day trip from the East Coast to the West Coast, but
Like,
because that will take you like 2 hours to drive there.
I was going to ask you then, like, what kind of a plane do you have? Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Jesus.
All right, man. Thank you all for listening to this episode, which is going to be the first episode we upload on Anchor.fm. Until next time, folks.